got the C25 back in the garage. That was a real disappointment, that. I've had it 7 weeks and it was such a lovely day today. I thought, oh, I can get it started. And as you saw in the previous clip, I couldn't. I've come in to put the battery on charge on the Optimate, and I'm not, you know, it took quite a bit of charging, and really the bike never run. I only had the ignition on, so I'm wondering whether the battery is down on power, and it's, although there was a spark with the plug out, maybe it's not sparking when the plug's in the cylinder, and maybe the battery's knackered. The carburetor also looks as if the joints are weeping a little bit, so I've got to have a total rethink here. I might have another try, but I'm thinking maybe to get a new carburetor for this, and I'll have to check the timing. It's electronic ignition. It's got electronic ignition on here, and I've got no instructions for it, so I'll have to try and source out how to do that, because, you know, I'm not like you guys. I'm not like all you technical engineers who've got all of the gear and you can do stuff. I've got to work hard at what I've got to try to do to try and find things out. I did finish the headlight. Look at that. Wow, wonderful. So the lights are on. The warning lights come on the top. Really good. But she doesn't run. So back to the drawing board. Right, I've just come in and Santa Claus has been. So let's have a look and see what we've got in here. And there we have it. An AML concentric carburetor to replace that one. That's the one I've just taken off the Barracuda, and as you can see, kind of it's quite dirty and worn inside. Probably been on the bike all of these years, so I've just decided, well, you know, let's go for it. Let's get a new one. So apparently this carburetor is a modified version of the older one, where the slide is a harder slide. It's the carburetor itself in the float is ethanol resistant. And there she is. So it's great, new carburetor. The new one has got the choke control at the top. That one's been blocked off on the old one, but I would rather have the one with the choke in, because the bike has got a choke lever on it. So, you know, I want to keep it as original as possible, and I will hang on to the old carburetor as well. So I'm quite pleased with that one, and I really hope it does the business. I'm sure it will. I've had to drain the oil again. It's got a bit of an oil leak under here, and whilst I was trying to do things quickly and get the bike so I could have a little run, I've realised I cannot do that. I've got to do it properly. I've got to try and find out where that oil leak is. I've got a feeling it's just gasket problems underneath and oil connections. But the only way you can get the oil pipes out from underneath, the oil pipes under there, which you cannot really see very well, is really the engine's got to come out. Now we've got the engine out, that is the offending oil pipe, which I wanted to remove, because as you can see right in the end there's some O-rings which I wanted to replace. And I also wanted to replace the long rocker box feed, the long one there, but I just couldn't get access. I just couldn't get in to get that pipe off. So unfortunately the engine had to come out. But while I've got it out, you know, I might even take the cylinder head off, because I want to try and get that exhaust valve lifter, which has been kind of blocked off with a bolt, but I'd like to use it again, put it back to the way it's supposed to be, because at the end of the day it was a fixture on the engine, so I'd like to put it back again. So we'll have a go at that as well. Yeah, we've got the fully reconditioned speedometer. I've just got this back from A. Sons. It's been reset at the original mileage that was on it, 32,800. So I'm quite pleased about that. But it looks absolutely mint. With the cable. Now let's have a look at the damage. £151.95. But that's the cost, isn't it? That's the cost of keeping our bikes on the road. Yeah, I had the engine on its side there to assist taking the kickstarter cutter out, which was jammed a little bit. I'm going to take the timing cover off because this clutch arm's got an awful lot of movement in there, so I need to look at that. And as I say, because it's on its side, the oil is coming out the gearbox. I don't know if that's normal or whether the seal is gone. I'll have to ask about that. That's the timing side cover removed. Came off quite well. A lot of black instant gasket on there. I've never liked that stuff. I don't know why it's there. And this is the cover itself. Well, there we have it. The timing side case has been taken off the Barracuda. If I sound a little bit kind of downhearted, it's probably because I am. I'm a bit disappointed, because I think the more I look at this engine, I think the more I realise it's going to have to be stripped. I've, for example, that's the kickstarter quadrant, and all of the teeth round the outside are chipped, so that's not so good. And one of the reasons I took it off in the first place was the clutch operating arm's got quite a bit of free movement in its housing there, and I don't really like that. I don't know if there's anything I can do about it. I might have to be bushed out. But whilst the Rupert ratio books talk at length about, oh, drill this hole out and rebush it, and drill that hole out and rebush it, that's fine if you're an engineer and you've got a lathe in the corner of your garage and all the gear to do it. I haven't got that, and I don't know anybody really. I don't know any engineering companies where I live, so it's kind of a bit of a problem for me. But it's a problem that's there, and I'm going to have to address it and see how I get on. And that's just the first thing. That's the first cover I've taken off. The clutch push rod came out when I took this off, and one end of the push rod was quite sharp where it had been burred over. The clutch push rod, you can hear the noise as I'm pulling it out there. It's got the end of it has been burred over. It's difficult to see, but so that end is obviously working against metal at the other end. So the next thing I'm going to do is, I've drained the oil from the primary chain case. I'm going to take the primary chain case off and have a look at what's inside there, and based on the evidence of what I find, I'll have to decide whether or not I'm going to go any further and completely strip the engine. And that's the last one out. The primary chain case had, and there we have it. Primary chain case. Bit of sludge and black goo along the bottom there. I'll have to have a look at that, see what that is. And and we'll just have to investigate a bit in here and see. And off comes the clutch. I've taken the clutch off, and it's difficult to see, difficult to show you what we've got here. But for an engine that was supposedly rebuilt, I'm quite disappointed with some of the things I've discovered. I mean, I'll have to have a look and see what the new clutch plates are like, but those ones, the wear on them, it's phenomenal. They're almost down to the plate. So it leads me to wonder who builds an engine or rebuilds an engine and puts a clutch back like that. Rocker box first. Right, well I think we've got the 9 nuts loosened off the rocker box. The two at the side of the inspection cover on this side are long through bolts, go right the way through. Here it is. Few spring washers on the top, they'll go flying all over the place, but let's get them off first. That's another one off. There we go. There we go. The rocker box is off, and then we've got the cylinder head underneath the push rods. So that's that bit successfully done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 cylinder head bolts coming out. Out of the 6 cylinder head nuts, there's one of them is particularly awkward to get out. Not to loosen off. Really difficult. It's difficult to get a spanner on it. That's it. A little bit of satisfaction here. There's one cylinder head bolt in here that was really difficult to get at, and I've taken this it's this size 14 spanner, and because I couldn't get it in, I've had to grind the top of the shaft off, and eventually I've got it in and it's worked, and I've got the nut undone, so I'm really pleased about that. Cylinder head's coming off in a minute. The second one is the rocker box has got little distance pieces stuck in there, but obviously I want to finish this surface down. I'm going to put it on a nice flat surface and finish it to get all the gasket joint surfaces really nice and clean. And I couldn't get a distance piece out, so I've had it in the oven for 10 minutes. As recommended in the Rupert ratio books, which are fantastic by the way, and it came out straight away. So I'm really pleased about that job, and I'm really pleased about getting this last cylinder head nut undone, and I'll be getting the cylinder head off very shortly. It's the last cylinder head nut, I think. If we can get that one off. There she comes off there. Now then. Whoop. Here she comes. And there we go. One cylinder head. It's got a little bit of carbonisation on it, but I think it's it looks like a very rich mixture carbonisation. It's not heavy. It actually it rubs off quite easily. And on the face of it, the valves look in pretty good condition, but I will be stripping them to have a look. The cylinder barrel, I have cleaned the top of the piston there, and the only markings I can find on the piston is 71-1800 TD13. So I'll have to look up and find out what those markings actually mean. Right, the last time we were here, I'd just taken the cylinder head off. I've been across to my very good friend John Moss Robinson today, and I took the engine across. John's an expert on B.S.As, as probably a lot of you will know. And I wasn't sure whether to strip this, so I thought I'd take it across and ask John's advice. While we were there, he took the barrel off. She's nearly there.
Aye, but I'll do it like that in case that comes with me, Peter. I've got me wood here. See, you should always have these things.
Your close pegs.
No, what the guns.
Right.
The one I've got to go to the conroad, you see.
Yeah.
If you can hold that.
Yeah, I will.
It's 15 thou.
15 thou for that ring. Oh, that's great.
Barrel mine is absolutely faultless, Peter. It is. Look at it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What I can do for you is, I'll do it now. I'm going to horn it.
The barrel turns out to be, it's perfect. No ridges, marks, anything in it. It's in really good condition. The piston equally is in good condition. We've worked out that we think it's a plus 40 piston. So I've sent away for some piston rings, some new good quality piston rings. We're going to put the piston rings in, gap them properly, put the barrel back on, and based on the evidence of everything John's seen, we've decided I'm not going to strip this engine. We've tested the main bearings, and there's no play. You cannot feel any play at all. So we're fairly confident that this engine had been rebuilt. It came with a record of, well, not a record. It came with word that it had been rebuilt in the past, but we didn't have any documentation. But it certainly looks like it has been rebuilt, and it doesn't look like it's done very many miles. I'll then I'll rebuild the cylinder head. Basically, it's just taking the valves out and grinding them in again, because there's hardly any contamination there, so it hasn't been used very much. And then we'll put the engine back together and keep our fingers crossed. Right, well, I've had a go at the cylinder head. I've taken both the valves out, as you can see, and I'm on at the minute with taking these studs out so I can kind of get a nice good surface. But What I did see, which isn't very good, is, and you can just see it there at the top of that valve where my finger is, there's a crack. There's a hairline crack in there. Maybe just see it there. So I don't know what the next thing is. And when you turn the cylinder head over, the seats are really strange, the way the valves have been seated. You know, they don't. It doesn't look even around here. But once again, I'm going to have to look into it and just hope that it's not as bad as it first appears. Got the rocker cover all cleaned up, beautiful gasket surfaces there. I've sent away for a couple of the spacer washers that are on the rocker spindles. Piston cleaned up a little bit. You can just see the top one there. You might just be able to see what it says. 71 1800, which was really puzzling. We couldn't figure that out. But eventually we figured it out, and it's the bore is a plus 40. So I'm waiting for a new set of piston rings. There's the old ones there. And then when we get them, we'll have a look at putting it together again after I've sorted the cylinder head out. A bit more progress today. Today I collected my cylinder head. The cylinder head needed a little bit of work done to it. It needed the valves seats re-ground to match the valves, because I don't think it'd be done very well the last time. So I took it to a local engineering company, got it back, all cleaned up, valves reseated for the princely sum of £20. Very good job, great job. Secondly, I had a brand new Kickstarter quadrant, because the old one had some chips off the teeth. So I got a brand new one. Unfortunately, the brand new one was a wider diameter shaft than the one that was on this bike. So my friend, a very good friend of mine who I keep mentioning, John, has machined it, and he's machined it to fit perfectly within the within the housing here, within the timing case, and he's also machined it to make sure it's a really good fit on the kickstart. We also got the new piston rings, so we've had the piston rings. I've put them on the piston there, but we've had them in the barrel, and we've measured the tolerances to make sure that, I think the minimum tolerance for new piston rings when you put them in the barrel is about 9 thou, and these ones are spot on. So hopefully we're not too far away from starting to put the engine back together again. I'm waiting for a gasket set and some new circlips, because you always put new circlips on the piston. It's good practice. So when they come, I'll start putting the engine back together again. Meanwhile, I've got the engine on the bench, and I've got the bike back up on the ramp, which you can't see at the minute. Yeah, I've just been completing another small job there. The rocker box, I've been putting some very fine shims in at either end. What that does is it stops the rocker floating back and forward and giving you a bit of excessive noise. So I bought some shim material. It's not very expensive, £15, and you get loads of different sizes, and just cut a few shims to put into there. Nice, a good tip. Well, another problem's arisen. I just received today the chain guard. I couldn't get a chain guard anywhere, and eventually I bought this chain guard, and I got it from Australia, and it took 6 weeks to come. And to be honest, it's quite good, except there's a bit missing off the back, which I'm going to have to fabricate. But I went to test fit it onto the frame, and as I was trying to line it up with the lugs here, this lug on the front just fell off. It's a little bracket with a fitting that goes on the chain guard, and it just fell off. There's quite an extreme amount of heat obviously involved in welding, and I don't want it to transfer through to the rubber bushes in the swinging arm and damage them. So how I'm going to do that I don't know, but apparently that bracket and the strength of that bracket has always been a weakness with these bikes. Apparently it was never welded very well. It just looks like a little brace actually, and the slightest movement on it and it just drops off. So that's another problem to solve. This afternoon I did a little test fitting of the chain guard, fitted it on to the new bracket that's just been welded on by a friend of mine who came down in there and did that, and he's made a great job of it. Obviously there's a bit missing over the back of the sprocket there, which I'm going to have to fabricate. Sometimes the most straightforward of jobs turns out to be a little bit complex. Actually, the gearbox drain and level plug, these two things here, are quite chewed up. And I thought, oh, I'll get a new plug. And I just thought all I had to do was put a spanner on that and get it off. I couldn't shift it at all. Couldn't shift it at all. I've had to take it to a friend who's used an impact driver of all things. And even that had great difficulty in getting freeing that and getting that thing out. So I've got a new one coming, just a small job, but without anybody with an impact driver, it would have been almost impossible to get that thing out.